Alright, sixth graders, so as we learned yesterday, our goal of solving these equations is always to isolate the variable. So to just get the variable on one side and a number on the other side. And by doing that, we'll get a number, and then at the end we can always check our answer by putting our number back in where the variable is. So in this case, whatever we find the answer for x to be, we can put it back in x, and hopefully 1.2 times that number will equal 6. So that's always a way to double check. So for this problem, as you can see, there's nothing to besides the 1.2x on the left side. So in order to just get 1x, we have to divide this by 1.2. And then when we do that, we have to divide the other side by 1.2. So when we do this, we're left with just x on this side. So 1.2x divided by 1.2 just gives us x. And that's always how we isolate the variable, no matter what is in front of it. So then our next step is to take 6 divided by 1.2. And I can't really do this in my head, so I'm going to write the fraction form of 1.2, which is 1 1/5. So then when I take 1 1/5, which is a mixed number, I get 6 over 5. So when I take 6 divided by 6 over 5, we know that 6 over 1 times 5 over 6, because we cross multiply. That's how we do that. And then when we equal this, we get 6 times 5 to be 30 over 6, and 30 over 6 equals 5. So for our answer, x would equal 5, and to double check that, we can put 1.2 times 5 into, and we can multiply that just to see if it equals 6, and yes it does, so we know our answer is 5. Again, for problem 2, what we have to do is isolate the variable. So in order to do that, we have to divide each side by the number that's in front of the variable, so a negative 2.4. And always be careful with negatives, because sometimes they can get lost when you're dividing. So when we divide negative 2.4, b divided by negative 2.4, we're just left with b on this side. So that's our goal, because we just want the variable on one side and the number on the other side. So when we take 14.4 divided by negative 2.4, we are left with a negative 6 for our answer. And to double check this, we can take negative 6 times a negative 2.4, because when we put 6 in for b to double check our answer, we get, so 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 2 is 12, 13, 14, and when we take a negative times a negative, we get a positive number, so positive 14.4, which is our answer. So for problem 3, we're doing the same steps again. So we take the number in front of the variable, so negative 3.6, and we're dividing it on both sides, just to get the variable h on one side. So when we take negative 10.8 divided by negative 3.6, we are left with the answer of a positive 3. So h equals 3. And this makes sense for this problem to have a positive, because if we were to put h in, back in here, so if we were to put 3 in here, 3.6 times 3 would give us a negative 10.8. So when we have fractions as a coefficient, we do the same thing that we have been doing. So taking whatever is in front of the coefficient and dividing it on both sides. So when we do that, when we have 2/5 t, we divide it by 2/5, and we're just left with t, which is our goal, always to isolate the variable. So when we take 12/25 divided by 2/5, that's the same as multiplying 5 over 2. And when we do this, when we take 12 times 5, we are left with 60. And when we take 25 times 2, we are left with 50. And when we simplify this, we're left with 6/5, or 1 1/5. When we are working with a fraction in front of our coefficient, we do the same thing, but you can see that what's on the other side of the equation, negative 3 1/3, is a mixed number. So when we divide, we have to make that an improper fraction. So let's do that first. And when we take negative 3 1/3, that's the same as saying negative 10 over 3. So I'm just going to rewrite our equation with that in it. So in order to get g by itself, which is always what we're trying to do, we have to divide what's in front of g, negative 1 over 2, to both sides, negative 1 over 2. So then when we do that, we're left with g on the right side, and then when we take negative 10 over 3 divided by negative 1 over 2, that's the same as multiplying as negative 2 over 1. And when we do that, we are left with 20 on top, because 20, or negative 10 times a negative 2 is a positive 20, so 20 over 3. And when we simplify this, we know that 3 can go into 20 6 times, and that's a remainder of 2, so we would have 6 2/3 as the answer to our variable. Same thing that we have been doing to isolate the variable, we divide by the coefficient, so negative 7/9 is what we're dividing by on both sides. And when we do this, we take 11 over 6 times 9 over 7, a negative 9 over 7. And what this gives us is a negative 99 over 42. And in order to simplify this, I know that 42 can go into 99 2 times, and 2 times 42 is 84. And when we subtract 99 minus 84, we're left with 15. And I can see that 3 goes into both of these numbers, so 15 over 42 can be the same as 5 over 14. So for our variable, m equals negative 2 5/14, because remember our answer up here was negative, and when we take, if we were to plug this back in here, negative 7/9 times negative 2 5/14 would give us a positive 11 over 6. So for this page of our homework, we're doing the exact same thing that we have been doing. So our goal, as always, is to get the variable by itself. So in order to do that for this problem, we have to get w by itself, and in order to do that, we have to take whatever's in front of w, which in this case it's negative 5, and divide it by both sides. So then when we do that, negative 5w divided by negative 5 is just the positive w that we're left with. And when we take negative 24.5, I know that's the same as saying negative 24 1/2, and 24 1/2 is the same, that's a mixed number, but we need to make it an improper fraction. So that's the same as saying negative 49 over 2. And in order to continue on with this, we take negative 49 over 2 divided by 5, but for this case, since we're dividing fractions, it's the same as dividing by negative 1 over 5. And this is negative because, remember, that's a negative 5. And when we do this, when we take a negative 49 times a negative 1, we're left with just 49 over 10. And to simplify this, we are left with a positive 4.9. So for this problem again, we have a decimal, which I converted into a fraction. And when I take negative 22.8, it's the same as saying negative 22 4/5. And when we make that an improper fraction, it's the fraction negative 114 over 5. So then we can move on and make that equal to 6n, because it's just the same number, just rewritten. And remember, in order to get n by itself, we have to take whatever is in front of it and divide it to both sides. So when we do this, when we take 6n divided by 6, we're just left with n on the right side. And when we take negative 114 over 5 divided by 6, that's the same as multiplying by 1/6, because 1/6 is the reciprocal of 6 over 1. And when we do this, we are left with a negative 114 over 30. And to simplify this, we can take 30 and see how many times it goes into 114. And we'll make this our answer negative just because our answer up here is negative. And when we do this, 30 can go into 114 3 times, and 3 times 30 is 90. And when we take 114 minus 90, we are left with 24. And we know that 6 can go into both these numbers, so when we have 24 over 30, we can simplify that fraction to be 30 divided by 6 is 5, and 24 divided by 6 is 4. So our answer for n would be negative, because remember the negative up here, negative 3 4/5. And to double check our answer, when we take, if we were to put it back into 6, when we take negative 3 4/5 times 6, we would get a negative 22.8, because a positive times a negative would give us a negative answer. So for this problem, again, we have a mixed number, and we have to make it an improper fraction like we've been doing. So negative 6 1/4 can be rewritten as negative 25 over 4. And when we have that divided by, we want to figure out what c is, as always, the variable, and we divide it by what's in front. So this time we're dividing by 3/5. When I have a negative 25 over 4 divided by 3/5, I know that's the same as multiplying by 5/3, because when we flip these numbers and invert them, we get positive 5/3. So when I take a negative 25 times 5, I'm left with a negative 125 over 12. And to simplify this, I know that 12 can go into 125 10 times. And I'm left with a remainder of 5 over 12, which can't be simplified anymore. So for our answer for this, c would equal a negative 10 5/12. And our answer is negative because if we were to put it in where c is, a 3/5 times negative 5 or 10 5/12 would give us a negative 6 1/4. So for the last problem on the homework, we have a negative 4/7 v equal to negative 8 2/3. So to make negative 8 2/3 into an improper fraction, we take 3 times 8, which is 24, plus 2 more is negative 26 over 3. So that fraction is equivalent to negative 8 2/3, and so we can set it equal to negative 4/7 v. And already I know that our answer for v, whatever it will be a positive, because when we have a negative 4/7 and then whatever answer for v, and we have a negative 26/3 as our answer, well, I know that a negative times a positive equals a negative, and a negative times a negative equals a positive. And since our answer is negative 8/23, I know that the number for v will be positive. So in order to move forward, we will take what's ever in front of v, so in this case it's negative 4/7, and divide it by both sides. So when I take negative 26 over 3 divided by negative 4/7, I know that's the same as multiplying by negative 7 over 4. And when I take 26 times 7, negative 26 times negative 7, I get a positive answer. So 6 times 7 is 42, so I put the 2 here, carry the 4, and 7 times 2 is 14, plus 4 more is 18. So our answer is positive 182 over 12. And to figure out how to simplify this, I can see how many times 12 goes into 182, and 12 goes into 18 one time, with a remainder of 6, and 12 goes into 62 5 times, because 12 times 60, or 12 times 5 is 60. And when we do this, we are left with a remainder of 2 over 12, and that's the same as saying 1 over 6. So for our answer for V, we get 15 and 1/6. And remember, our answer for this is realistic, because if we were to put it back into where V is, a negative 4/7 times 15 and 1/6 would give us a negative answer, and negative 8 2/3 is realistic.